Well, the early days of being on stage with what would become Supergroove, and then we had a bunch of names, the rhythm section, which was ironic because we didn't have a drummer, but we didn't even really know enough to know it was ironic, I think. And then the Lowdown Dirty Blues Band, and Little Boy Blues was Nick Atkinson, Tim Stewart and I. So those were the earliest iterations. First of all, we busked. So Ned Ngatai and I used to busk outside the Ponsonby takeaways in exchange for free burgers and also free spaceys if we were lucky. And one night we both clocked Street Fighter and stayed at the takeaways the whole night and actually slept there, and then made toasted sandwiches at 6 a.m. on the grill. So that was pretty cool. But anyway, so busking was kind of where it started. Tim and Nick and I got kicked off the cenotaph by a very offended war veteran, saying that we'd dishonoured the souls of thousands of dead soldiers by standing on the cenotaph and busking, which of course, I wouldn't do it now, but we didn't really know what the cenotaph was. We just thought it was, something to do with the glorious dead. Thought it was like that band from California or whatever. They're Grateful Dead. But anyway, Susan Devoy gave us like about 3 cents or something, and I kept that 2-cent piece for many years. But anyway, those were the early days, and then we started getting gigs at like the Corner Bar, at the Glue Pot, and Java Jive, and those kind of Ponsonby up the road from us type places. And we were very bad. I mean, we played out of tune. Joe's grandmother came to a show and videoed it, and we noticed that we kind of started the show facing forward, and then by the end of it, and indeed halfway through, we all pretty much had our backs to the audience, and we were just like, and so we looked at that video and we're like, man, we have to rock to the crowd, man. That's band meeting, rock to the crowd. And so we just learned everything very slowly, and overcame our shyness and started making slowly some music that was vaguely listenable. Well, to start with, we were doing covers, because growing up in Ponsonby in the 80s, that's what other musicians did. That's what we saw Beaver doing and Hattie doing, and these other sorts of bands. They did kind of standards. And also people gave us advice. That's where the money is. You got to play covers. All that sort of thing. I mean, we got lots of what turned out to be bad advice from well-intended people within the music industry, but we followed every bit of bad advice we ever got. So we started doing covers, but then I guess when you're in a band, there's a certain number of people, and it's a bit like a Venn diagram. There's a place where all their musical interests and tastes converge. So we're all into separate things, but there are these things that we all share as passions. And so with a 7-piece, that's a lot of divergent interests and a very narrow point of convergence. And the point of convergence was not blues covers. It was rap music, essentially. It was hip hop. That's where we all got excited about the same stuff. So that's what we would listen to together. And we would listen to other stuff separately. There were little factions within Supergroove of, Tim and Joe would get together and listen to folk music. And I was like, folk music? And then maybe Ben and I would listen to Joe Satriani or something. But anyway, because of that small point of convergence, and because that point of convergence was rap music, and in rap music you don't really do covers. You don't bust someone else's raps, you write your own raps. It's part of the kind of tradition. We started doing original music. And then we could incorporate some of the bluesiness and some of the funk that we were all into as well, the James Browny sort of Parliament Funkadelic stuff, into something which was more rappy. And that started the originals, and that's when we changed our name to Supergroove, and that was on New Year's Eve 89 to 90, and we were very concerned that we were going to lose our audience. Again, that advice coming from the outside is like, well, first you have to think about whether you have an audience really before you worry about these things. It proved not to be that much of a problem, losing our audience.